And welcome back. One name that has been tossed around more than once as President-elect Trump's Secretary of State pick is Mitt Romney. Romney had dinner with Trump a few nights ago. A lot of baggage, though, with that potential pick, as the one-time presidential candidate made it clear during the election he was not going to support Trump for president. A lot has changed, though, in the last couple of weeks. And here to discuss why Trump may be considering Romney and to talk about some of his other picks and other issues is Metropolitan State University professor Norman Provizer. And always glad to have you here with us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
What do you think about this Romney-Trump discussion?
Well, it's kind of interesting because in the main, Trump has really looked for strong supporters. He's one of his major items that he focuses on very much is the notion of loyalty. Now, no one can make any claim that Mitt Romney was loyal to the Republican nominee and spoke out very vehemently against him. But it's politics. And as much as we say politics are going to change in some ways, there's an element of it. People have their own interests. They have their view of what's good for the country. And that can take on all kinds of different shapes. And from Trump's perspective, I think it's useful for him politically to talk to rivals. Now, no one expects this administration to follow the example of, completely the example of the Obama administration, because the big thing for the Obama administration, they talked about it all the time, was to put together a team of rivals based on the Lincoln and the Doris Kearns Goodwin book and all that, team of rivals. I don't think one's going to expect that. So this has kind of gotten attention because it's a little bit of a move in that direction. But we have to wait and see who ends up being the the named person to be put up for Secretary of State.
What do you make of his administration so far with the picks that he has announced?
I think it kind of reflects of what you might expect. A number of controversial picks in terms of the people that they've talked about. Strong reliance on military people up to this point, a lot, and there's some issues about that. For example, in the Defense Department, there's always been this issue: do you really want generals in charge of the civilian Defense Department, because we're supposed to have civilian control of the military, not military control of the civilian government? Now, you have had exceptions. George Marshall was a great former general and a great Secretary of State. But we also have a rule in that you have to be out of the military for so many years, and he does not meet that, so it needs to be away. So there are political battles. Jeff Sessions is another name that's going to cause a lot of controversy. But I don't think anyone should be surprised that a Trump administration is producing controversy. That's all we've had during the entire campaign.
Yeah. You just heard Polly Baca. You've seen the moves by Jill Stein. What do you make of that?
Well, I think and this is unusual. This does not really happen very often. There is there's this whole thing with the nature of the Electoral College, because as we know under the Constitution, it is the electors who pick the president. The popular vote influences that. I mean, and it usually goes together. But there are some key times, 5 times in American history, the popular vote has gone one way, the electoral vote has kind of gone a different way. So, we have some examples of that, but it doesn't happen very often, but it just happened in 2000. The last time it had happened was 1888, and then we have to wait until 2000. Once we hit 2000, then only have to wait 16 years for it to happen again.
Is this a waste of time? I mean, is this, or is it just politics as usual? Well, no, you're saying it's not.
Well, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it reflects a sentiment, just as the election of Trump reflected certain undercurrents in American politics. I think his actual election, once he's there, in terms of the president, to be, that it produces strong emotions on both sides, So it's foolish to think that there's going to be strong emotions in favor of Trump and then reject the idea that there are going to be very strong emotions against him and his candidacy and what he represents in many ways. And it's been a very controversial campaign.
It certainly has.
So I think that's really where he left. So it's not a waste of time. How far it'll go, that's really questionable.
So we have less than a minute to go. How will this race go down in history and the Trump presidency, do you think?
Well, I think, like all things in history, how they're remembered depends on what happens. You can have the best of intentions, you can get in a situation And that situation causes great difficulty for everybody. And that's how you're remembered, as someone who caused great difficulty, not because of your good intentions. Sometimes you can have bad intentions that work out very well. So I think the reality is history ultimately judges what this presidency will be like. There are signs that it's going to be different, controversial, and to many people, very uncomfortable, to say the very least.
We have certainly seen signs of that, yes. Thank you, Dr. Norman Provizer. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Always our pleasure.